Hey everyone, welcome to the Power Hour. We're just giving folks some time to come in, so we'll get started probably in about 2 minutes. So hang tight and we'll get started soon. Hey everyone, there's still a lot of folks making their way into the virtual meeting room. So welcome to Power Hour. We'll get started in another minute. Thanks. All right, it's 3:02. Let's give folks till 3:03, just because I still see folks coming in and don't want anyone to miss a thing. So another 30 seconds or so, and we'll kick this off. We've got a lot of folks here. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time. My name's Dee. Hopefully, a bunch of you know me by now. I'm Chief Product Officer, and I'm really excited to host another version of our Power Hour. So we designed this series to really just give you some practical advice on using the product, some real world guidance. And so we wanted to give you direct access, right? Whether it's folks that are building and designing behind the scenes from Syncro, or from our incredible partners like you. And so today we're joined by Jasper, one of our partners, and our goal is to really just make sure you leave this session with real tips and tricks that you can use and put to use right away. And so today, Jasper is going to be sharing with us all about really smarter device management, whether it's some scripts and some custom fields to policies. And so he's going to walk through a handful of things and examples. Jasper is from ROI Technology. He's a great Syncro partner. He's built some really efficient processes around the product. And so I'm really grateful to him for being here today. Before I hand it over to Jasper, just a couple of housekeeping notes for everyone. So number one, we are going to record this session, or it's being recorded right now. We'll post it out on the Syncro community forum along with any key takeaways or links from the session. So you can always hit up the community to find the recording and any follow-ups. And then during the session, we are going to leave a bunch of time at the end for Q&A. Just make sure you use that Q&A module instead of the chat, so that way we can find all the questions and make sure we get as many as possible answered for you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jasper. So take it away, Jasper.
Thanks, Dee. Hey, everyone, welcome. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your time, and I'll show you kind of what we do for some scripting and some policy folder organization. So let me get the screen share going. Can I take over the share, Caitlin?
Yep, you should be able to.
Alrighty, so I'll just go ahead and jump into this. Kind of felt like the natural flow of things would be maybe talk about some of the scripts that we use, how we implement those in policy folders, and then kind of what data they collect for us, and then what the hierarchy looks like. So just kind of prepared a few scripts in this demo environment, talking about, BitLocker is always a big one, being able to back up those keys regularly, being able to trigger encryption and decryption. And then I don't know if anyone has come across a situation where you see a machine that is encrypted, but maybe it doesn't have a recovery key protector. And if you don't have those ahead of time and there's a Lenovo firmware update, you're kind of stuck. So yeah, so these are the quick scripts, and let's take a look at what they do on an endpoint. So we set a few custom fields, including like the BitLocker status field. This was adapted from some other scripts that we sort of combined and merged to be able to pull that recovery key protector, as well as the TPM version and the status, and then we can alert on that within Syncro. Battery health for laptops. So this one doesn't have a battery. Let me grab an example of that. I'm going through these quickly. We'll come back to them. So if you're ever trying to troubleshoot a low battery issue or identify a laptop that maybe has a bad battery, oops, that one doesn't have a battery either. Let me grab a live one. Sorry. So some example output from an actual production environment. Since this is just a VM this ran against. But Windows actually collects a lot of information on the health of the battery, especially Windows 11, health of the battery, design capacity, and then measured capacity over time. And so you can actually collect things even up to like the model of the battery that's in there. It's not always perfect, but at least it gives you like a starting point. You can try to find more information about the battery. So we also within that script trigger alerts. So if a battery is below, you can set the different capacities for it. And if the battery is below a certain capacity, we'll actually trigger an RMM alert, letting our techs know that a battery is maybe low on health and needs to be replaced. So we can be very proactive in that respect. List users, that's another use case that we've had where we're trying to track down a device that maybe a terminated user at a client site has logged into previously. Maybe they didn't save what they were supposed to on a server, and we just want to figure out which backups that we're pulling from. Pretty simple use case. And video adapters and webcams. I'm not sure if anyone's ever tried to figure out what kind of webcam is plugged into a device, and once they say my camera's not working, being able to grab that information. And then show you what that looks like on a device. So no camera on this one, but this is what it would look like from production. So, So on this production system that I described, it has, this is the camera. And if we Google it, you can actually find information about it to kind of be in that troubleshooting process. So that's just kind of some high level information that we pull from the devices. And then in terms of policy folders and organization, so we build out a number of policies for our clients, and we try to really, we do defense in depth, but we apply that same concept to policy folder structure, where we're collecting different pieces of information at different points in the client lifecycle. And so if we look at how we apply that, we can have a billable folder hierarchy, and we can drop, new devices into like a staging policy. And then for us, in our staging policies, we'll grab the workstation staging policy. We really just want to make sure that we have remote access, and this could be during an onboarding phase where we're sort of trying to get lay of the land. We'll grab some scripts for basic stuff, setup scripts in Syncro for like BitLocker, Diskel, just trying to understand the environment that we've stepped into, and then deploy like our auto elevate or a Huntress MDR kind of a situation. Patching policies. I'm going through this really quickly. Are there any questions? Do I need to stop on anything? It's all pretty. Nope, I didn't hear anything. Okay. So let's here we go. So we can break things out and layer things in. So we'll do like a canary patching policy where maybe they get their updates kind of day one or day zero, and sort of figure out if there's going to be a problem in that environment with a certain update. That'll usually be like a power user someone that, kind of our inside champion. And then, we'll go a little more granular with, Windows with laptops. You're not going to want to run your battery check scripts on, desktops and servers. So we'll run that just on laptops. And then decom. So this has been a kind of a thorn in our side in the past, where we'll decommission a device, whether or not you apply billing to that device or not. We want to kind of set it to the side, but we don't want to lose the history of it. We don't want to lose the ability to see if it ever comes back online. So we'll throw a toast notification at it and just kind of nag the user if it ever does come back online. So we'll throw a toast notification script here, and we'll just run that consistently against the device and just say, hey, if it comes back online, start nagging the user, say, hey, this is not supposed to be online. You need to contact IT. And then we'll also apply a shutdown script against it. So we'll do like a we'll do like a shutdown in 5 minutes. So in that way, we can encourage the user to let us know that a device needs to be put back into service, or maybe it was not picked up by us yet to be erased or decommed, but somebody has grabbed it and turned it back on. So makes it difficult for the user to touch the device, use it, and then we can get those RMM alerts. We'll just say, hey, device in the decom policy folder. So we really want to layer those policies so that we know at any stage of the device's life cycle that it's got Huntress MDR and it's either online and billable, or it's staged for maybe look at Windows 11, get new devices that need to replace those old Windows 10 devices. Want to make sure they're staging those. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Is there anything that we want to dive a little deeper on?
So we'll take a look in our Q&A module, but before we hop over there, one thing, Jasper, I think that might be helpful, maybe for folks that haven't done a lot of scripting in the platform. There might be some folks that are on here that have been like, maybe tried it once or twice or aren't as familiar with it, to even just talk about if you grab those scripts from the script library, like what it might look like to do the customizations you need in order to kind of get them just configured and ready to go.
Yeah, let me jump back into our scripts here. So for BitLocker, for all of the scripts that we use where we collect the data, we want to make sure that we have an asset custom field that corresponds to where we're trying to write that data. So for the scripts that we develop, we make sure that we internally, we make sure that we're doing write hosts for the information that we're collecting. So we want to make sure that we're, if it has multiple volumes, for example, for BitLocker, we want to make sure that we can see those recovery key protectors in the output of the script and previous runs, so that even if we're not writing all of the information, like for example, we don't write D drive to that asset custom field, we only write the C drive, because that's the one you need 99% of the time. And we really want to try to avoid cluttering this page as much as possible. So we write C drive here, not D drive, but we do make sure we have a place where you can see information on other volumes. For toast notifications, there's a bunch of different ways you can accomplish this. We decided to use Burnt Toast, which is a project you can get off of GitHub, or a module you can get off of GitHub. We call the logo directly out of Syncro. There's a bunch of platform variables that Syncro can reference in a script without necessarily having to know what it is ahead of time. So we can literally just define, the thumbnail logo. And then when that toast notification runs, I can actually show you what that looks like. So we'll just say, and so the user gets the toast notification. So this is really powerful. I think Syncro might have a way to do notifications already, but I think we built this for our previous RMM, and so we just carried it over. So we use that to, for example, let users know ahead of time, hey, Friday, 3 o'clock, we send a notification, hey, there's going to be updates this weekend. Make sure you leave your computer turned on. Or if it's something out of cycle, if we're having to do like a critical vulnerability patch middle of the week, we can say, hey, there's going to be an update in 15 minutes. Sorry, it's important for security. So we can use that in a bunch of different ways.
Nice. A specific question came up about the decom script.
Mhm.
They were asking if did it put the asset into a non-billable asset count? They were like, don't know if I missed that, but that was a question.
Yeah, so we organize, I don't know. So, okay, let me take a step back. The way that we bill is flat rate based on devices and user count. So because in Syncro, you can target an asset folder and count the devices in there and bill for that. We can go into, we can say, in assets and policies, we have a top level billable folder, and then everything within there is counted. Or if you're doing a different rate for servers and workstations, you could target your workstation line item and just count the devices in here. So we can apply a different policy for patching to what we call a canary versus regular patching policies, but we can count every device in there. And then we don't count the decom folder, but we still want to know if a device that's in there comes online. So that's why we run a different script against it to both open the RMM alert and annoy and nag the user. So hopefully they don't keep using that device. And then we can also apply minimum security standards to that. So we can make sure MDR is on there, make sure we have auto elevate to restrict those admin rights. The user gets nagged, device gets shut down, and hopefully it either comes back into service or it gets returned and we can erase it properly.
Great, thanks. I think there was another question that you might have just answered as well around kind of what does the billable policy folder do? And there's not like a non-billable one. So it sounds like for you, devices are all, you want to count them all up in billable.
Yeah, if it's in use, if it's in production, it should be billable because we're paying for those MDR licenses, we're paying for all the security, there's maintenance. The work to develop a Syncro instance, the work to build your policies, to validate patches and things, you should be billing for your time, and that's how we recoup that investment. So we sort of say if it's in billable, it's billable, and if it's not, then it's not.
Makes sense. Great. Another question, and stop me if I'm peppering you too many with questions.
Nope, not at all.
Otherwise, I'll go through while you're demoing. Question around how do you handle your clients if they don't kind of fit into the standard policies that you have? Or do all your clients fit into your policies by nature?
Pretty much everyone does fit into them. However, you can do something like this. So you could drop the top level policy from there. Actually, we could do this way. So you can say, if you have a client that needs like a custom policy, we could say, just grab our standard workstation policy and we'll just say client custom. So in this way, you can say, this client gets a custom policy. They still get our standard policy because that's going to include things like, MDR, auto elevate, that kind of stuff. But maybe they have different tray icon options. Maybe you want this client to be able to have a shortcut to, if they have their own portal for their own line of business software, you could throw links in there. So you could say like, so under custom policy. Whatever that would be. And so then only devices within that single policy folder would get those customizations. The ability, I don't know of any other RMM that does it this way, but the way that Syncro has it laid out where you can nest policy folders and apply, different hierarchies is, for us, it was really powerful coming from, the RMM that it came from. So it's probably our favorite feature.
Nice. Nice. Another question is, do you have anything that detects the video port that a PC has so that you can know ahead of time, like is it BGA or HDMI? for like swapping out old PCs?
Or I don't know, actually. That's a really good question. I don't know if that's exposed in Windows anywhere.
Hmm.
That's okay. I'm gonna actually throw that on my
On your
follow-up
list of
list.
things to
Yeah.
investigate. I love it. Oh, there's a
Yeah,
couple of answers in chat. People saying I have scripts for that. Well, we have
there
the
you go.
script library, the community. That's great. We've also had a couple of questions here saying, are the scripts that Jasper has shared available in the community library? And yes, he was gracious enough to give us all of them, and we named them all. They're named Power Hour. They've been updated within the past week, so you can just sort by new or look at Power Hour, and all those scripts are already out in the community library for y'all if you want to just go grab them. They are there.
Yeah, I know we tried to update the descriptions to be clear about what it does and if there's any variables you need to create in Syncro, or if there's any asset custom fields and what they should be named. So feel free to tag me in the community forums if anything's not working. I'm happy to help troubleshoot it or get it in front of the right person.
Great. One other question here is, do you do anything with Macs as well as Windows?
We do. We're like 98% Windows, so that was kind of what I focused on. That's what we have focused most of our development efforts on. We do for sure. If there's a specific question, I can try to shoot a message to Attack or someone and see if they can give me a quick answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there was just curiosity of like, are you scripting for those? Do you have separate policies for Macs? If you have any like, just kind of high level what you do differently for Macs versus Windows.
Yeah, so we largely do the same stuff for Macs as we do for Windows. Make sure we're deploying our MDR solution. Auto Elevate has their Mac agent now, so we make sure we try to deploy that. I think I built, yeah, so I did throw the Mac OS folder. I just didn't build a policy for it in the demo environment. But Macs they're not set it and forget it, but they're closer than Windows is to set it and forget it. So we do third-party MDR for Mac OS management. But mostly it's just, MDR deployment, sorry, MDM. We do a third-party MDM for Mac OS management. But it's deploying Huntress, deploying Auto Elevate, some light alerting. Yeah.
Cool. Great. What about, there's a question here asking how you handle, I think you mentioned per user licensing. Like, are you using custom fields on the end user, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so on end users, I don't know if I set the end user up in this inbox here. I did not. So we do use a custom field. I think we just call it like active user. And then I guess, we have some time. I guess I could just build this really quick. So if we go look, customer.
Very brave. I
I'll
love
build
it.
it live. Let's do it.
Great.
We develop in production, right? Just do like active user, and we'll just do a drop down. Let's say like. So we pretty much say they're either an active user, if they're terminated or terminating soon. We'll say like lines. And then within the invoice, if we do like a recurring invoice here. Now we'll see if the Syncro sandbox is full featured or not. So
It'll be
let's
fun
see.
to find out.
I think it is. I think it is.
I don't know why you didn't want to just use your client environment to do this whole demo.
Then we can do a customer contact counter. And we could say. So that's how we would do per user billing. And then kind of the same idea for per asset billing, you could say. Also. global station. That's how we would do that. Anything else?
The mute button, that's not super helpful. Congratulations on building it live. Great. Awesome. Let me keep going. So, question around, is there a way to turn off any annoying Windows settings like, power save off or moving the start button or things like that? Especially I think around trying to make Windows 11 maybe seem, well, I think this person said usable. I'll say familiar, whatever you might want to say.
Yeah, we do have some scripts for that. I will try to submit those to the community library for the Syncro folks to take a look at. There are a bunch of projects on GitHub that you can take a look at if you're, reasonably good with PowerShell. You can cruise through it and make sure it's not malicious. Don't take random code from people off the internet. Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a bunch of different ways to do that. You can remove packages. So we actually strip out in our customization scripts, we strip out as much as is reasonable. So we'll leave things like paint, but we'll turn off the news feed. We'll remove all the Xbox stuff, all the gaming stuff, except for I think the Xbox game bar we do leave for screen recording functionality. Or no, we do strip that out now. The snipping tool has recording functionality. So yeah, we there are different ways to customize it and debloat it as it is. So for sure.
Yeah, great. I'm seeing like on both sides of my screen, some things in chat and some in the Q&A. So I just want to re-mention if you want if it's a question for Jasper, and we have a couple other panelists that are here to answer other questions too, feel free to throw them in the Q&A just so I don't miss them. That would be great. So question is, have you ever built a script to create a health report like across a group of computers?
No, so we use a third-party IT portal that sort of aggregates the information, but we use Syncro to collect all of that information. The reason is PDF has kind of sort of become like, please delete this file. So when we used to send PDF reports to clients, they would more often than not it went straight into the junk folder, into the trash. But being able to give somebody the ability to see sort of the 30,000 foot overview of their infrastructure in like a dashboard felt a lot more useful, and that's where we get more adoption.
Great.
I saw somebody mentioned about Bash versus PowerShell scripts. Yeah, absolutely. So when we build Mac scripts, it's of course going to be Bash. Even though Mac technically supports PowerShell, Bash tends to work a bit better. So yeah, they call it Mac script. That's just Bash.
Great. All right. Let's see.
Looks like someone asked about typical onboarding scripts. Sorry if I'm stepping on your toes. I just pulled up
No,
the
it's
Q&A myself
great.
there.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah, for onboarding, it's really just a collection of scripts. It's kind of largely the same scripts that we use in production, but maybe sort of gradually rolled out. So if we look at these guys, so we created an onboarding folder, and then we created an onboarding policy, and then within that policy, we'll just make sure we enable remote access, and then we'll do kind of the basic stuff like grabbing the BitLocker key, disk health users, basic security tools. Usually during the onboarding period, there's a losing MSP that's departing. We don't want to step on their toes, but we do want to make sure that we're getting lay of the land. That's where the setup scripts become really useful as opposed to like a script schedule. So we can at least get that initial snapshot of things, and then when it's time to actually go live with the client, we'll move their devices over to from the onboarding policy. We'll move them down to billable. We'll say like so kind of that business. You can grab the entire folder if it's easier. If there's only one device, I just grab the single device. Default policy versus build specific for each one. So we do our default policy for everybody. And then as necessary, we'll kind of make little branches off of it. We want to try to keep our standard workstation policy as broad as possible. So basic health stuff, basic security stuff, and then if somebody needs something more specific, then we'll build that custom policy and nest it below the standard workstation policy. The way that we found Syncro's policy folder works is kind of top down. So if you're hiding a tray icon at a higher level policy, but then you're exposing it at a lower, it will be exposed at that lower level.
Like, show us your Syncro system tray icon, but I think you're working in our sandbox, so that's,
I am indeed.
Yeah. let's see.
High turnover rate. This requires creating end users and removing end users from assets and then adding new end users to that asset. How do you deal with this without having HR fill out forms? So we actually require their HR to fill out an onboarding form for every user that is onboarded, and then same thing for them offboarding. They're paying for those user seats, so it's in their best interest to let us know when somebody's leaving. We say we require 72 hours notice, so basically 3 business days, unless it's like an emergency situation. If you've had to terminate somebody for cause and you're worried about retaliation, then that's different. We have questions in our forms that let people specify that. But generally speaking, it is a little bit of a manual process, but it kind of needs to be. We need to know when someone's being onboarded, and we need to be able to ask those questions. And if they're, hey, I hired somebody 2 weeks ago, can you get them set up? Like that doesn't do anyone any service. So 365 via a script, yes. Chocolatey. Somebody asked, have you ever tried rolling out 365 using a script? Yeah, so we use Chocolatey to deploy 365. Think you can do it through Syncro, but there's different versions. So there's like the business tier versus the enterprise tier. So we just built our own Chocolatey script. I don't think there's anything proprietary in there. Let me take a quick peek. I'll clean up my Chocolatey script that handles 365 installation and submit that as well today.
Nice, thanks, Jasper. Got another question here saying, hey, we used to submit scripts, but really didn't hear anything back to know if they're accepted or rejected. And so it's a great question in terms of our communication on accepting and editing scripts. I believe before I joined, there was definitely a time when there might have been maybe just a slower roll on some of the upgrades, but we've been really focusing in on it. Daniel Hedges, who many of you saw in our last Power Hour and we'll see coming up again, he and a couple other folks, I think, go through and are doing all the approvals and running it through. I can check in on communication, but we are trying to be really timely with getting those approved and getting them out there. And then I'll double check and see what, if anything, we do for communication. I think we can probably just make sure we're at least giving you a heads up when your script makes it to the library. So I will take that as a follow-up with Daniel.
I think I saw somebody ask about running a script within a script, but then the question disappeared. I don't know if that got answered or not, but yeah, you absolutely can run a script within a script. So we store all of our scripts in GitHub, and then we have a kind of a wrapper script that we invoke on the Syncro side to pull the latest version down. That way we can have change log of what changed when in a script. We can do some troubleshooting without having to touch production.
Great. Someone asked, oh, and you touched on this, but what's your model? I guess your billable model. You touched on it when you went through your policies, but maybe worth just reviewing it again, if you don't mind.
Yes, so we bill per server, per what we call a workstation. It's like be laptop, desktop, tablet, and per user. We're a Microsoft CSP, so we resell 365 licenses from Pax 8. Those get billed as a separate line item, but really there's kind of 5 line items on an invoice. It's going to be your servers, your workstations, your users, so per user as well, 365 services, and backup. For backup, we include workstation backup with our workstations, but we do a separate line item for server backup if they have an on-prem server. That usually gets scoped a little bit differently. So. Easy.
And then here's one around kind of if your current policy includes a certain antivirus and your customer is switching vendors, do you have a best practice around, create a new policy or how to manage that?
So we'll usually throw the removal script into just like an on-demand job, and then we'll report on it. So if we're building a removal script, we'll have an RM alert that we'll have exit conditions in the script and say, hey, if it did not exit successfully, then we'll open the alert. And then for deploying the new one, we put it into the workstation policy.
Great.
Yeah, we really try to keep the policy folder, or excuse me, the workstation policy as broad as possible so that it's targeting what we're doing in production today, and then any changes we'll script those separately.
Great. And so there's a follow-on saying like you're not including line items for work and time spent. You're just kind of keeping it simple, high level.
Yep, we're flat rate, white glove. We don't want people getting separate invoices for every little ticket that gets handled. They can see all the, administrators at a site can see all of the tickets for their site that were opened, like client administrators. But generally we're not a time and material shop in any way. We're full service.
Yeah.
We sort of say the only things beyond your monthly invoice that you might see from us will be parts, projects, or new products. So if you come to us and say, hey, we want to figure out a digital signage board and we need, a solution to manage this, and okay, great, let's talk about that engagement would look like, what the parts are going to look like for that, any project fees that we might charge to implement that, but generally it's you get one bill from us and that sort of covers everything.
Great. And then someone's asking maybe for you to step back and understand like how you're using GitHub today, because I think you're doing something that not a lot of folks are doing, and there are some really good reasons for you to do that. And so I'd love to, just even explain what you're doing with Git today. It'd be great.
Yeah, so we have a private repo that we store all of our scripts in our organizational system. So all the scripts you saw here today in our environment actually live in our GitHub instance. And then we have a single script that we invoke from the Syncro side that targets whatever its corresponding script is in GitHub. So for example, just a second. And D, if you want, I'm happy to post our little, framework wrapper script. Probably not useful for anyone unless they've already got a repo built out, but not directly useful in Syncro without other infrastructure. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it might be interesting to post for folks, or we could even create a community post for, if you're interested in using GitHub, this is how you might do it. That could be good.
this is sort of what it looks like for us. So in order to stand up, like if I was going to create the battery health script, we would throw a link to the actual raw URL for the script, and then we use a personal access token to control it that rotates periodically. So we throw a token in there. So this script here would run our battery health check script when properly configured, but otherwise is exactly the same for every script that we store in Syncro. For a lot of our legacy scripts, we'll usually throw like a comment block at the bottom with the original script. So like, there's your output, or there's your original script. But generally speaking, this would be all you would see on the Syncro side. And then this would actually download and execute the script that's in GitHub. It's capable of accepting any variables that you define on the Syncro side, as well as any that you define prior to downloading and running that script. It's actually running in the context of the wrapper script. So fully functional. We haven't encountered any issues with it other than rate limits on the GitHub side, where if we push a change, it can sometimes take up to an hour before we can see that change reflected in new versions. It's probably a CDN issue, but we haven't really seen a reason to chase it. Hopefully that answered your question.
Great, thanks.
Someone said users and workstations are not overlapping. I assume they mean from a billable perspective. And no, we bill separately for users and separately for workstations. That was the fairest way that we could think of it for clients not having to pay. If you did just a higher rate per user, and let's say someone has a shared workstation, or the other way, if you have somebody with multiple devices, didn't really feel fair to make them pay the full ticket price when it's sort of not exactly one-to-one. How do you handle tickets on the invoices? They have a long list of resolved tickets pending to be added to the invoice. We don't. we don't put tickets on invoices. It's all inclusive for us, aside from parts projects and new products.
Right. Yeah. If you're not going to bill for your tickets, basically in those tickets, you can mark the time as non-billable in that labor log. And so that way you'll still have, if you want the history of having done the work, it will still be there, but it won't be eligible to be invoiced. And so that will just clear, all your pending charges. So that would be one way to handle that if you wanted to just make sure that those things, they're not sitting in front of you all the time pending.
Yeah, you guys just came out with non-billable time, right? Like that was pretty recent.
Yeah, within months, not, Bobby will probably keep me honest on when, but I feel like it was early 2025, but we continue to make updates.
Someone said, what's the benefit of using GitHub to have scripts versus just running them directly in Syncro? For us, it was just change management, being able to track while a script is being revised, if we have to push a change to it, being able to see the changes that were actually made. And then just, managing it ourselves versus putting all that burden on Syncro to try to organize things. For us, at least, we were already in GitHub with scripts from our previous RMM, so it made sense to just sort of connect the two rather than try to run them as two separate places. Backup is another reason, script redundancy and backup. If somebody pushes a change to it and we need to revert that back or it wasn't approved, we get a little more control of it by housing it in GitHub. The Syncro is not a software development platform. That's not what you're trying to be.
Yeah.
Are you running the scripts locally on the user's machine? Yes, if you run a script in Syncro, it executes on the endpoint. Nights and weekends, overtime. Yeah, I mean, we staff 24/7. So we do on-calls overnights, but we do have people around on the weekends that just work, their regular hours, Thursday through Monday kind of a deal.
Right.
Do we only do remote work? No, we do on-site work as well. In fact, our techs actually go out on site with goodies for clients. Each tech has kind of an assigned group of clients that they're primarily responsible for. We send them out on the holidays, with gift baskets. Our leadership team takes client owners out to lunch. We try to maintain we try to be very present with our clients. We don't want to be a vendor. We want to be a partner. We want them to feel like we're a part of the team. We get invited to birthdays. We get invited to barbecues. We try to maintain a very healthy relationship.
Question.
Somebody said, do you bill for nights and weekends? We do not. If the business that we're supporting is working on nights and weekends, then that's included in their contract. We sort of say if you have 6 incidences in a year and you're not on a nights and weekends tier, that's the only place where we have different pricing is if you require 24/7. We sort of say if you have 6 incidences a year or more, then we need to probably bump you up. It's only happened once, so. Can you suggest a general setup for custom asset fields? Oh boy, can I.
It's like it's one of my favorite topics.
So we didn't understand this when we initially built things out. We probably should have been creating different asset types. So we have mostly just lived inside of the Syncro devices asset type. But pretty much any piece of information that we collect, if it's something we need persistent access to, it gets created as a custom field. So these were the 6 that we prepared kind of for this event. I'll tell you what we have on other devices in production. We also collect, back in the days where platter drives were still out there, widespread enough, we had a field for determining if a device had a solid state or a platter drive. We do a Windows 11 readiness, we write that to a custom asset field. Before Syncro had their warranty tracking, we also had a warranty field that we were pulling using some CyberDrains work that they did on pulling warranty from Dell and HP in that. We write a unique admin password to each device that rotates daily, and that's set via PowerShell script. And so we write that, whatever today's admin password is for that device. We used to write last OS update, but Syncro's made some pretty good advancements in their patch management, so we haven't really relied on that too much anymore. And CompuTrace. So I don't know if CompuTrace is relevant anymore, but we found a couple of devices that still had weirdly CompuTrace on them that predated us taking that client on. And so we wanted a way to see if any of the components were present or being loaded into Windows by that kind of mainboard level stuff. So we also wrote that out.
Great. We're getting close to the end on questions. Have you done a lot of work with the Syncro API, Jasper?
Mostly for billing, a little bit. If there was a specific question about that, I could try to answer that. But
mostly around, is there a way to invoke a script to an asset or a group of assets using API, and what ways do you utilize it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but
I think the
there's
interaction
not a way
with
today to do a script via API for sure. That one I
Okay.
do know.
Yeah, we sort of treat the API largely as a let's pull information out, not a let's push information in. So we're doing a lot more gets and far fewer posts.
Great. Someone's asking to share the script to pull from GitHub. We said we would either post that to our community library, or we'll post it just in the community plane. I probably need to talk to the team to see if it makes sense to have it in the community library. I guess it might.
My vote would be as a community forum post, because if someone grabs it that wasn't on this webinar, they're not necessarily going to understand
what does this mean? We can write a little article around it and put it just right in the community directly. That makes sense to me. All right.
Script to wake on LAN for an entire device. I don't think you can do that today, because the endpoint would have to already be online to execute the script to start the process. All of the scripts in Syncro run on the endpoint that they're targeted against. Syncro is not executing these scripts like in AWS or wherever they're hosted. It's only on the endpoint itself. So I know I've asked about bulk wake on LAN before, and I don't know if it's something they're working on, but I can see use for that. Line of business applications via custom script. Have you deployed line of business applications via custom script? I mean, yeah, absolutely. So we store the line of business executables in our GitHub repo with the script, and then our wrapper script can pull those down as necessary. So. And Chocolatey, yeah, Chocolatey is a fantastic platform for deploying some applications. The thing with Chocolatey that you have to be careful with is that if you're using the community version, then those are validated by their community, not necessarily, it could be anyone. The same way Wikipedia can be edited by anyone. Chocolatey scripts can be, Chocolatey packages can be uploaded and maintained by volunteers effectively. So, which make sure you're validating before you deploy things to production.
And in terms of API to script, I think Jordan posted a nice tip in here. I don't know if it posted in chat. Oh yeah, in chat as well. So, you know, and I didn't think of this. It's very clever, Jordan, which is, you know, have an alert, auto remediate, and then run a script from your auto remediation. So nice little workaround.
Someone asked, how do you rotate admin passwords? Is that a script? It is a PowerShell script. It targets a specific username and list of dictionary words that we define that we change periodically, and then also some random characters, and there's some entropy thrown in there. It sets that unique local admin to sets the password on that unique local admin, disables the account, and then writes that to an asset custom field. And then on any of those maintenance scripts, with the exception of BitLocker, we also set the skip if offline option. I don't think I touched on that. So in order to not just create an obnoxious amount of noise for yourself, you want to make sure that you're setting skip if offline on things that aren't business breaking if you don't have it. BitLocker is one that we want to make sure that as soon as that device comes online, we're getting that key. Same thing with disk health. Those are kind of like, we need to know those things as soon as we can, but you know, video adapters, toast notifications, we can skip the devices that are offline.
I think we've crushed our way through, like.
I think so. I think I kind of answered, is there a way in Syncro to start a script only when the device is starting up or user logs on? I mean, if you're running it once a week and you skip offline, or you know the user goes home every night, you could kind of use that as that. You could do a scheduled task. So you can create scheduled tasks with PowerShell. You can schedule in the context of the user, and you can schedule the event, you know, at logon. That'd be the other way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, this is great. Jasper, thank you so much for coming to do this, sharing all of this, working both in our sandbox and also showing things out of your prod environment. Really helpful. And for anyone who missed it, we recorded. We're going to post the recording in community. I think we'll post some or all the relevant chat transcript in the community, because there's some really nice tips going on there. We're going to post the script to access Git in community. We'll be out there, you know, to have follow-up conversations. Please let us know if there are topics you'd like us to cover in future Power Hours. You know, and if anyone has you know, a set of things that you really want to share with the community, reach out and let me know, and we'll talk about whether or not you would like to also sit in the hot seat one day and go through this. So thank you, Jasper, so much. Really appreciate your time. And to everyone else, I hope you got a ton out of it. I know I learned some things.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.